What's going on, everyone? I'm your host, Dwight Vick. I'm here with NSMT, my guys that I've been collaborating with. Obviously, you guys know me with Vicktory Life, but I'm also with NSMT. I'm your host this evening as we interview one of the best coaches, basketball coaches in the DMV, head basketball coach at Patriot High School, Sherman Rivers. How you doing, Sherman?
Good, man. Good, man. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Year 10 for you, even though it's football season as we record this. Basketball season is upon us, man. We're here at Velocity Wings in Haymarket, a familiar spot for a lot of people in this area. I've never been to this one. I've been to the one in Gainesville, but I really like this ambiance, right?
Right. Feels no live in.
Yeah, man. So we got the games on, and this is a great time of the year with October, November time frame. We just switched into November. You had the baseball World Series. You have football. Shout out to your son, Anthony.
Yeah, man.
Really killing it right now.
Man.
I mean,
Proud of him.
undefeated as a starter.
Crazy.
Right?
Crazy.
Patriot football. Shout out to Coach Finnery and the Patriot Pioneer football team.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of different things going on. Your son, Devin. Matter of fact, your team is getting ready to play for the championship.
Yeah, on Saturday.
Yeah. So you ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, we had practice tonight, went over some stuff. We got knocked some heads a little bit, make sure they're ready. And, it's exciting for the kids, man. They get to play at a high school stadium, get to announce before the game, get to run out on the field. So I'm excited for them.
It's got to be exciting, man, that, two of your sons and the other kids are like your sons too, coaching them. And you have your primary situation with Patriot basketball, which is something, you got basketball trials coming out. So how do you balance all this? Because tryouts, even though you kind of have an idea who's returning, there's always some players that surprise you. So you got to coach your son's team, Devin. You got to make sure Anthony's straight for these big games coming up here. And then you also...
Not to mention my other son who's a senior this year. He was doing very well in school and got 5 A's and a B, something like that. So trying to help him out. And my older son who's trying to navigate life as a 25-year-old. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot, right?
It is, man, but it's enjoyable because, you get to watch, your boys grow and the things that they're doing. And, usually, I used to kind of stand back. And I did coach Curtis a little bit, but not a whole lot. And then, with Anthony, I just was usually in the background. He has some very good youth coaches. But Devin, the first thing he said when he started playing team sports, he said, "You're going to coach, right?" And I looked at him for a second. I said, "You want me to coach?" He said, "Yeah." It was something I can't believe you thought otherwise. So here I am coaching youth football the last 2 years in Ankle Bar Division. I got the GBA draft on Sunday coming up as well. So that's after the championship.
Oh, another draft.
And because GBA is about to start up, so the rec league for basketball is starting. So I have that third grade draft coming up on Sunday as well. And then tryouts start on Monday.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it, man. I don't know if there's your clone. I don't know how you balance all that.
You know what I'm saying?
So with Patriot basketball, the tryouts, obviously you're one of many schools in Virginia and the VHSL and the DMV that's getting ready for basketball. But before we get into the tryouts and your roster this year, who you got coming back, because obviously the expectations are the same.
Right.
I want to go back to when it all started. When you came back from playing pro basketball.
Okay.
You come back from playing pro basketball. You did some college coaching. And then all of a sudden you decide to return home to Potomac. I mean, it's well documented. Potomac High School basketball, arguably, in my humble opinion, easily one of the top basketball programs, private or public, when it comes to talent, championship pedigree, just all the guards and wings and all the players you guys have had. Then you decide to do what a lot of guys say they're never going to do when they play. You decide to coach.
Right.
Not that you weren't coaching already, but you decided to coach at your alma mater.
Right.
You guys won a state championship. You were an assistant, right, with Coach Honore.
So basically, I finished playing. You're sitting around, and I actually was sitting there, thinking about whether I was going to sign that next season. And while I was sitting around, Keith was like, why don't you just come out and help us out while you're at home? You'd be good insight for the guys. And, I was like, all right, in my mind, I'm still a player. And, when you're still a player, it's hard for you to turn that off and to want to help kids be the best that they could be.
Yeah.
Because even when I was at William & Mary, when I graduated, they tried to talk me being a grad assistant. I said, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
I can't coach them to be what they are. I'm going to coach them to be what I am. and that's not fair to the kids. So, you know, I'm coming back, I'm helping out, I'm doing some stuff, and then I'm like, man, this is actually pretty cool. You know, I'm back here coaching at my old high school, I'm subbing every day. You know, they're like, even if you don't have a class cover, come in, you help out some sort of way. So I'm back in the building, I'm helping these kids, and then finally, like, you know, my agent called me and said, hey, I got this, you know, this job in Switzerland. I was like, I think I'm good. You know, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and shut it down, man. I've said my last season playing was probably the best one I had statistically. Was healthy for the majority of the season, so I was just like, yeah, I mean, I'm 30 years old. I'm thinking, you know, my son was getting older at that point, so I just didn't want to be away as much from family stuff. And I was having fun, and I was enjoying it, so stuck around, obviously, was on the staff when the season started. That was 2010, and we went to the state quarterfinal and lost to Highland Springs.
Yeah.
They had a really good player, Jarvis Street, I want to say his name was LMB, was a Parade All-American. Came back the next year and over the summer, and Keith was like, he said, listen, I know you got aspirations of coaching in college. Why don't I let you coach the JV team? You know, and in your mind, you think, man, I can do this. But the minute he said it, I was like, I got real nervous because I was like, all right, now I'm on the hook. It's no more me in somebody's ear saying, you should do this. It's like, now I got to make a decision. If it's wrong, we lose. And I remember you said it, and I took it to you and said, you good? And I was like, you think I can do this? like asked me, he's like, you can be straight, you know, it'll give you that experience. And then he helped with that, and then kind of helped me with some stuff like coaching AAU. I coached with Virginia Salt that summer, and was coaching with that, and did the JV stuff, did really well with that. You know, and that was the old Potomac gym before they redid it.
Yeah.
And now that it's open, that was when all the teams had practice on one floor. So I had 45 minutes to practice. That was my time slot. And I had to make the best out of that 45 minutes that I could to make sure I got across what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Make sure the kids understood it. Make sure we go out and execute it. And listen, we end up going, I want to say 15-1 that season.
Nice.
So it was really good. I had some really good players that ended up being on those later state championship teams. And obviously, I left for a season, went to the University of Mount Olive, thinking that, man, I want to be a college coach. And then I did it for a year, and I was like, I don't like this. Man,
Why you ain't like it?
I just didn't like it, man. It's just I like the help forming of the young men to be who they're going to be. And at that point, they're kind of who they are.
Yeah.
That, and then I'm not gonna lie, like the kissing kids' butts.
Yeah.
Telling them that they're really good when you think they're okay. The disagreeing, like, with the head coach and what his vision might be compared to what yours is. Even like recruiting, because I was recruiting coordinator. There's just a lot, and just by the end of it, I was like, I'm good on that. And you know, it was like kind of a mutual thing of us part ways with that, because it was. You know, I know I'm not the most easy guy to get along with at times. But, you know, I remember I called Keith, and we had been talking anyway because, you know, obviously talking about the kids and the connection I had with them at Potomac. And he said, you always came back. You know, had a lot of ideas about some stuff that we could do. And obviously I know sometimes he probably was like, Sherman, shut up. But we were able to do a good job that year and won the state championship 2014.
Yep.
28-1. Probably, I want to say, the best team in Prince William County in the last 15, 20 years.
Easily.
And I mean, and you can argue in the last like 30, they can be up there with some of the all-time great teams. Went to the semifinal the next season, then won it again in 2016.
Yeah.
So it was a really good run for us there. And then, you know, at that point, you start getting the itch, like, I think I want to do this for myself. I want to be the person making decisions and doing that and like navigating that. And the other part is not to be, you know, not to lie to you. It got a little boring.
What, dominating?
Yeah. It did. It was like we didn't have to overly prepare for stuff. And I mean, some people hear this and they'll probably take offense to it. I don't, you know me, I don't care. They're like, we were beating teams at times when we were at like 60% of what we should be. And it was like, we'd be sitting on the bench and like, well, we just run this, it'll be fine.
And to be fair, just to kind of stay on memory lane for a second, you guys were beating teams, but it wasn't like the district or the region or even those out of conference games were cupcakes.
No.
You know, you guys played a tough schedule.
And it just, like you said, but even like just the local stuff, I was like, it was almost like a given. It's ironic now to say that because what we're doing now at Patriot, that we were going to win the district.
Yeah.
And so it was like, man, I just really want to challenge myself in a situation where it's like, I really got to coach to get us to places, to get to that sort of Mount Rushmore of like just that aura about your program. And so I remember it was so random because usually I would work out before the game before I got really lazy. And so I would work out before the game and usually I would be working out during the freshman and JV games. And then I would go shower and I would be ready for the varsity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this day I worked out early for whatever reason. And it was when we were playing Patriot. So I was in the stands during the freshman and JV game. And I remember at the time thinking like, man, these freshman and JV teams are really good. Like the freshman team whooped us. Like that was the funny part. And the JV team had some kids that could really go. But I knew the varsity team from watching film wasn't going to be any of that. And in my mind, like, man, you should have put those kids up there.
Yeah.
You know, thinking that. And just didn't really think anything of it at the time. Because, to be honest with you, I had no idea where the school was at.
You know, so, but sticking with that, right?
Yeah.
You talk about you decided to take the Patriot job. One thing I remember when you and I were on your Legacy Spotlight, when you were on the Vicktory Light platform, was that, and you talked about this even off air, how a lot of people on the east side of the county, the Route 1 Woodbridge corridor, were like, yo, you will be crazy if you go to coach at Patriot.
100%.
And you can't, on some like Rocky 3 stuff, like, or when he fought Drago, when Adrian told Rocky, you can't win.
Right.
Like they were telling you can't win. And I can relate to that because I know when I chose to play at Virginia Tech wasn't Virginia Tech. So everyone, they saw my offers of Florida, NC State, and all these other schools. And I went my own path, and obviously Tech became what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You took Patriot, a job, and you brought some guys with you, right, from Potomac, and took that blue blood mentality to the west side of the county when Haymarket, Bristol, and Gainesville were still trees and a few townhouses.
Yep.
It was building. So even the area around Patriot was building up. And you had the courage to take a job where, respectfully, before you got there, they were not good.
Right. Right.
They weren't. I mean, were you afraid?
Like I said, a bad chance situation of watching that young group of kids. And I was like, those kids are good. Mm-hmm. And then they had a really good sophomore point guard on the varsity team, a kid named Icon Wuka.
Oh, yeah.
And so I knew what the young kids were, the freshmen and JV kids, and then I knew they had a really good guard. Mm-hmm. And I ain't gonna lie to you, there's a lot of my arrogance thinking that I could fix anything, you know. And so, you know, it was one of those situations. And you know, my buddy Keenan had worked there, and
Keenan Carter,
so Keenan had worked there, and so Keenan would tell me about it. He was like, "Yo, the job's open." Like in my mind, I didn't really know because I didn't really go check that stuff. He's like, "You need to apply." I'm like, you know, all right, man, like I'll apply. Like I actually think it's an interesting job. And like you said, new school. And it was something that, because I had such deep ties to Potomac, it gave me a school that didn't exist when I was there. So it wasn't like I felt like I was doing something wrong. Because there was an opportunity at a few other places in the county that I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of like shoot it away, and they would ask my interest in it, and I was like, nah, because of that deep blue blood in me that I can't be there and then come here and compete against that. Yeah. I feel like I'm doing it with like my heart in it. Yeah. And so that was where I think it was one of those things that it was a place that didn't exist when I was in high school. So there was no, oh man, Patriot, this. It was just like, oh, whatever, it's a new school. But I can't tell you how many people looked at me in my face or called me on the phone and said, why do you want to take that? It's a bad job. You can't win there. It's not the same type of kid you're used to coaching. It's never going to happen. I just sat there and listened to them because I had a plan. Like I had been planning this for 3-4 years about what I would do if I got the opportunity, who I would hire, what I would run, all of those things. And I knew it. Like my first call was to my boy Devon. I didn't have to call my dad because I told him he didn't have no choice.
Shout out to you.
You know, because I told him all the time, I become a head coach and be sitting right next to me. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to let you guys have it. Say, okay. Knowing that's what was going to happen. So I remember I called Devon Johnson on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And Devon, graduate Potomac, coached there for forever with all those really great teams, right?
Played college basketball.
Played at Longwood, and very great basketball mind.
Absolutely.
Okay? And I called him on the phone. And he said, I knew he was going to call me. And I had my pitch ready because I knew what I was going to say to him when that situation came. And he couldn't say no to it. It was like, because I said, man, we can go do this, man. We do this. Ain't nobody ever say anything to us because nobody ever did it there. You know?
Nobody.
And so, and it was one of those things. So sold him. I also had my dad. The next call I had was to my boy Teron. Because Teron, man, is like, and you know him, was just got great energy.
Great energy.
And he brings that every day. He'll do anything he can to help you out. I mean, all the social media stuff that you see for us, all the contact stuff you see for us, all those great things that are going on, that's him. I don't like to take credit for that. You know, so you see me retweet or you see me laugh, I'm not laughing at my own joke.
Yeah. No, Teron does a great job at that. You do it social media in a different way.
Right.
You're polarizing.
Right.
You can.
He's the fun.
Yeah.
I'm the one that makes them what people want to beat us. So, you know, so I was like, and so then, you know, and the next call I made was, you know, to a guy named Eric Hayes. And everybody knows Eric from Maryland and whatnot. And Eric was so funny because, you know, Eric, obviously, Coach Hayes being his father, you would think that it was going to be a hard sell. And I talked for like 5 minutes. He said, and he's such a quiet dude, too. He was like, yeah, man, let's get started. So it was great having him because he's a very good basketball mind. So in that first year, having these guys around me, my dad being a previous coach, Devon having all his knowledge he has, Eric being a very smart basketball mind, Teron having his insight, having that in that first season when we were trying to fix something. You know, it wasn't like, all right, let's take this and go win. It was like, how do we fix this? And we thought that it wasn't going to be as difficult as it turned out to be.
Yeah.
I remember that first workout, I had a whole plan.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes in, I tore it up because we were that bad.
I love hearing these stories, not just with you, but with other interviews I do, because a lot of times we'll see, even in a collegiate level, Florida State or Miami or Duke, and people don't realize before they became household names or respected, they were beyond a work in progress.
Yeah.
They weren't even a work. It was just like they were existing with no expectations.
Right.
I remember you told me in a conversation, in a previous interview, that when you came in, like the only people in the stands were the parents.
Listen, we talk all the time, and I'm telling you, everybody sees it now, and they're like, oh, Patriot this, and they got that, they doing this. So, man, I remember having a playoff game, a district playoff game, because we were the 4th seed and we made it. And it was only parents there to watch it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always the super pack stands or the highlight videos or the invites to these special things or getting on buses to go do this. It was getting whooped by Potomac by 40 in your own gym, being up against Garfield and me not making the right decisions and us losing that game down the stretch. And it was like a learning process for me because I'd never been in charge of it. I'd been an assistant, but it's just different. You know, when you got to make those decisions in those moments and when you're trying to guide kids and change a culture that is used to losing, the woe is me, here we go again.
Yeah.
And it was super evident when we went to our first team camp. We had some workouts. I'm like, man, we might be pretty good. Like, we got some guys, we got these pieces. Kids that end up becoming all-region kids the next season, right? We go to team camp at the University of Richmond. We went 0-8. And I remember I looked at Devon. Listen, I looked at Devon. I said, "Are we sure we want to do this?" Because it was crazy watching it happen live. Because you could see that it was just ingrained in them to not think they were going to be successful, and we had to break that. And it was just a lot of work, a lot of getting after it. I remember the first open gym we had, no one's keeping score. I stopped him. I said, "What's the score?" And they said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "Well, you guys aren't even smart enough to lie to me." I said, "You could at least made up a score. Now we can just run for that."
Yeah.
I said, "We compete to win here. We don't just play to play." And that was something we had to change.
Did you consult with anybody? I know you talked about Keith. Your dad is a jack of all trades. He's a mentor to a lot of people.
Right.
Did you talk to anybody? I mean, did you talk to Coach Hayes?
I did. I had a few conversations with him, and I remember he wrote me a letter one time saying, he said, "You never know that random 5th grade team," which ended up almost being right with Juice,
Yeah.
is going to be your state championship team.
Yeah.
And so he said, just keep plugging away, keep getting after it. I asked a lot of questions. Tony Bentley's another one.
Oh, shout out to Tony.
That, I would talk to a good amount, and he's the kind of like the voice of reason for me.
Yeah.
Because my dad is like the devil on the show. He's going to tell me to say that, to tweet that. Tony would be the one be like, "Hey man, listen, if you want to do that, I understand, but that might not be the right thing to do."
Yeah.
So I appreciate him at times like that. But there are times he would tell me, "You're exactly right. You should feel like that." I was like, if you telling me that, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of different guys that I've come across in this thing. I've asked a lot of questions too, and gone to a lot of practices, a lot of clinics and things of that nature to try to, I had my own ideas, but to shape it and to put it into practice, to deliver it to a group of young men, to get them to execute at a high level.
Yeah. And, you talk about getting to that state tournament. That's when I was introduced to Patriot basketball. Because long before, when my kids were little, they were playing youth sports. But I've always, when I was growing up in 757 or even when I was at Virginia Tech, I always want to go check out the local sports scene.
Right.
And this area is great, right? And I remember seeing on social media your run that year when you guys really started to turn the corner.
Right.
You guys played South County in the state quarterfinals. The game was at Osborne Park High School. I went with Isaiah, my wife. My girls didn't come, but we went and we got there and it was packed.
Yeah.
And that's when I saw Red Nation.
Yeah, man.
That's when I saw you. I believe you had on a white sweater.
I think we were still suiting back.
Yeah, y'all was still there. And I remember thinking, man, it's live in here.
Yeah.
You guys lost that game, but that was kind of the beginning. I mean, I know there were some games and moments before.
Yeah.
But that's when you guys started to really turn the corner.
Yeah, that was, like I said, the previous year we had won the district for the first time. And you could see it was kind of like the start of it. But that team was, all right, we are going to dominate this around here. And we got a chance to get here to the last game. We had some exceptional players on that team. But the bigger thing about that team is they were so smart. Like, they really understood what we were doing, but more so understood how to apply it to live action.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a whole lot I had to say.
Yeah.
And we had a great point guard at Hagen Van Diver.
Yes.
We had basically had another point guard who was our 2-3 man in Devin Parrish that could run the show, but also could score 30. So you have both of them. We had a really good junior there being a college basketball player that left us as a senior, Yusuf Sali. We had Jakai Moore, who is an all-time recruit football-wise, but 6'7", 300 pounds inside.
And athletic.
Right. We had Marcus Taylor, who ended up playing 4 years at Shenandoah, who was probably one of the best defenders that we've ever had, and that's saying a lot for some of the kids we've had over the last few years. Griffin Flanagan, who's now on our staff, was a great guy off the bench. Zach Blue, who ended up being a big-time player at Mary Washington, was a 6th or 7th man on that team. Jackson Ford. We just had smart, tough kids that really understood how to play and how to play together. And it was really cool to watch. I was talking about this the other day. That was the one team. Like, I knew that other times we would win, but that was the one team I could predict the score of what we would win by.
How good was Devin Parrish?
He was exceptional. He is actually better than what he believed he was.
Really?
I can't tell you how many times I yelled at that kid because he wasn't doing what I knew he could do. And when he figured it out his senior year, it was scary because he was hyper efficient. He was averaging 18 points a game, but probably only shooting the ball 9 times a game. He was shooting over 60% from 2. He was shooting 40% from 3. He was an 85% foul shooter. He was our leading guy in assists. He was second in rebounds. He led us in steals. He was a phenomenal basketball player. And I want to say one game he had 22 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds. Like, just watching him, and it was just so smooth how it would go, too. It was, like, effortless. And now he's starting to finish over the rim, pinning guys' shots on the glass because he worked his tail off in the offseason. I mean, he was outstanding.
And you lost the young man, the kid Youssef, right?
Yeah, the following year.
Yeah, he lost. What school did he go to? He went to private school, correct?
He went to Highland, and then he ended up going to a Division I school. When he went to Idaho at first, then he transferred to University of Illinois Chicago. And I want to say he finished maybe NAIA.
Yeah. I think the great thing about your program that reminds me of my day and your day, you're a few years behind me in age, is when you have the open gyms, you see those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really cool to see all those guys you mentioned. Even Jakai, I mean, they come back. I mean, he's a football player.
Yeah, man.
But they come back, even if they're not on the court hooping, they're talking to you and chopping it up. I think that culture you built, you and Devon and Teron and those guys and your father, really set the tone for what you have now. It's unfortunate because I've told you and Carlos Poindexter at Hayfield and Tony Bentley and even Doug Craig at Woodson that you guys, when you create these expectations and that culture, you become a prisoner of those expectations because now you got into this height of success. You can't go backwards.
No.
You can't have a down season.
No.
After that great run and that tough loss to South County, they went on to go to States, the state championship game. That was in States. All of a sudden, the expectations I mentioned earlier started to creep in.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, can you get over the mountaintop and do it and repeat what you've done?
Right.
But COVID happens.
So we got one more. So we had one more season, and they ended it early, like the state championship.
Yep.
So we had that good team, like where those were kids that were the sophomores.
Yep.
That when I first got there, that I remember when I got there, I said, you guys should be playing in minimum one state tournament before you graduate. And they're looking at me like, what's this guy talking about? We've never won more than 6 games since we've been here. So, and they end up doing that, winning 23 games as seniors and winning the district for 2 of those years.
Yeah.
And then the next year, we graduate 8 of them.
Yep.
From that team. And everybody was like, well, they're going to go back to what they were. And then we start out the season 5-4. We're struggling. And we made a couple changes, and we end up winning 15 or 16 straight. Yep, 16 straight, and we end up going 21-5 because we lost in the regional semifinal to Massaponax that year.
Yeah.
Which, was unfortunate because
was about 1 point?
Yeah, we got really bad for the entire game, and then we went on this big 20-4 run in the fourth quarter and had the ball drive into the basket. The kid makes phenomenal play, blocks it. Then we try to get it inbounds, we shot off. We don't get a good shot off. We lose by 1.
Yeah.
And that season ended early because of COVID.
Yes.
And then the next year was the COVID season.
So before we go into the COVID season, that's also the year when you start 5-4 and you and Trey have a conversation, your star guard.
Trey Nelson. Arguably one of the best point guards ever played for us.
And in that, definitely, I co-sign. In that conversation, Trey calls you and says, yo, coach, we're not really that good. Y'all were 5-4. So he took personal accountability.
Did.
And then y'all went on the run because you kept trying to tell them we should be better, but we're not that good.
Well, because it's the hard thing is when you're dealing with just players in general, but young players, is that they never want to believe that they're not good. Even when their kids think they can shoot when they can't, these kids think they can rebound when they can't. How many times you watching in the gym, everybody's trying to dunk knowing they can't dunk. Right? And so I was telling him, I said, guys, we are not that good. And so I remember he was kind of fighting against because he was struggling a little bit early. And finally he watched the film. It was him and Zach Blue. And I remember they both texted me. It was a group text. They said, Coach, you're right. We are not very good. I said, I know. I said, we're not doing anything we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So when they took accountability, because those were our leaders, it completely changed it. Because now it's not me fighting against them. them trying to prove to me that they're so good. It's like, how do we fix the problem? And we went on this trip to West Virginia for our Christmas tournament, right? And it was great. It was one of those trips where we took a bus, so we were with each other the whole time. They weren't going off with their parents, and it was awesome. And we won both of our games out there, tough environment, came back and just kept going, and then finally, obviously, it happened at the end.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, the world changes.
Correct.
We have COVID.
Right.
So it's not even about basketball. This is about life and death.
Right.
I remember because as a father and as a small business owner, my life was changing. Then I had my oldest daughter who was an athlete at Unity Reed playing volleyball. And then you inherit Isaiah and Desmond and Makai came later, but you get Desmond and Kai and that team coming back.
Right.
And it's tests, it's temperature taking.
Right.
You're playing games, your players with masks on.
Mm-hmm. And cardboard cutouts of fans.
Yes, cardboard. It was cardboard. I didn't know about that because we couldn't go to it.
Because they were on the other side and they put them in the stands like the NBA games.
Honest question. We have never talked about this. I'm not saying you wanted to cancel the season, but was there a bit of frustration? Because respectfully, you got to look at the fact that this is a pandemic and people are dying or severely ill on ventilators. This is serious. But at the same time, you're a competitor in basketball and you're trying to, to me, I'm looking, how is those kids playing with the mask on?
Right.
Did you ever get you and Devon and Teron and all you guys say, you know what? This is insane. Like, what are we doing here? Or like, can we stop the season and maybe start a different time? Because football had that weird situation where they had it later in the year.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I was the opposite. And not even from a selfish, like I want us to be able to play games. It was, these kids need something that gave them some sort of normalcy. And whatever we got to do to figure that out, let's do it. If it means that it's going to be shortened, if it means we got to do it like a marathon, if it means we got to play with masks on, I just want them to be able to come do this so they don't feel like, like think about like those seniors.
Yeah.
Those freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, they're going to get another year. Mm-hmm. But those seniors to not have that and just what it was, I felt like it was doing to some of the kids mentally. I felt like it was important to have the season and still have the sports. If we could do it in a safe way, which we did. We had all the temperature checks, the check-ins that we had to do. And, we're make sure that everybody put in for stuff and to make sure that they didn't have any sort of symptoms every day. So we did everything the right way. We were able to get through that entire season without having any major issues. I thought it was a win.
It was a win. It was just tough, though, because the end of that season, Potomac, at that time, they're still Potomac, but they're still Potomac that year. They ended up losing in states, which Keith and I talked about. That was unfortunate because they had to play Centerville at Centerville.
Right.
But that was the first time in forever the runner-up in the regional championship didn't go to state.
Right.
And you had a dynamic backcourt with Trey Nelson and Chad.
Yes.
And Trey didn't get a chance to really showcase how good he was because you only played, I believe, 15 games.
Right. And it was a shame because I think he was the best guard in the state that year.
Yeah. He was money. He was tough. But there was a lesson learned because you have two kids that are freshmen in Desmond Hopkins and Isaiah Vick. Mm-hmm. And you also have Jay Randall and a young stud guard who you've known since he was a child in Nasir. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, they see the pain and disappointment that Chad and Trey go through.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you've had years of success. So now the Patriot way, the expectation is formed.
Right.
So it's almost like now with a lot of successful programs in multiple sports, you see this where the Patriot way almost leads the way for the young guys to understand without you and Devon and Teron and your dad having to say anything. They start to understand what it is. Okay, we got districts. We got regionals.
That was at our point. It was our fourth time winning in a row at
Yes. Yeah. So now you come back.
Yeah.
This is arguably the following year, the best season in Patriot basketball history.
It's crazy.
But let's be real. It didn't start off that way.
Oh.
Yes.
That off season, and it's so funny because all of them say it now. I feel like every off season we're god awful. And watching it is just is like a nightmare for me. But it's given me more confidence now because I'm like, clearly I know how to fix it. Because, I mean, we were bad. And it was like, we just weren't good. We weren't gelling. We had some guys that were fighting to try to prove some stuff, you know, and you know, it was, you know, it's so funny because we talk about all these great guards and we keep talking about arguably. I mean, when you put his resume next to everybody else's, it's hard to not take Nas.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying? Because like, and the one thing that I got to give him supreme credit for is because me and him had this conversation after that season we lost to Potomac. And I remember I said to him, I said, bro, we cannot get out tough like this ever again.
yeah.
And he was, like you said, from the other side, grew up over there, then moved over here.
Yeah.
Kind of like the same as me, like his father went to Potomac. And so he understood what I meant by that. And his toughness permeated through the entire roster. And it shifted. We had a winning culture at that point, but it changed from a winning culture to like, we're going to murder you culture. Like, and we're going to do whatever we got to do to make it happen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't at first because, like I said, give him the credit. He thought he could do it by himself. And because he was a very good player, a lot of times with good players, that's what they believe. And what I was trying to get him to understand, and you know, in probably not so nice terms, was that we have to do this together, and you have to lead us there. And if you can't lead us there, then you can't be a part of it.
Yeah.
And because I knew that if he got it, there was not going to be anybody that could mess with him
Yeah.
because he just had that.
He did.
And so it was, once he figured it out, it was scary. And it was, like you said, it was all of a sudden, and it just flipped. Because like I said, we went through fall league and we still were struggling.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And it just, like I said, once he finally got me and him added out, had a whole thing, and I'm sure people heard it a lot of the times. But when he figured it out and he turned that switch, he was exceptional, and he made everybody else's have to rise to where he was at. And if you didn't, he wasn't going to let you live it down if you didn't get after it.
Absolutely.
And it was great to watch because those guys needed somebody to follow.
Nas really personified what I feel like was Patriots' toughness, as you mentioned,
Yes.
on the court where they played tough defense. But what I also thought that year, and it really got better and better as the season went along, was Jay Randall
Yeah.
stepped in and became a great defender.
Right.
And then you also had Courtney,
Yes.
a guy that was a senior. You also had two kids that if you saw them in here at Velocity Wings, you're like, okay, what's up, guys? But they were dogs, and
Right.
Mike Ackerman and Nick,
Right.
right?
And so it's like I said, it was all different, and they all had their ways of work, and the way that we were able to marry it all together. Like you said, Nasir was like that swag, like, hey, listen, we nice, and there's nothing you can do about it. Or you had Mike Ackerman, who had that same thing to him. But you walk in somewhere and Mike shake your hand and be like, it's so nice to meet you. And he always thinking about is just taking your heart, you know?
Yes.
And then you had Nick Marrero, who looked like, you know, was like, oh, the shooter, all that. Same thing. Like, they just had this tenacity about them. And like Jay had all this skill that we were trying to get him to harness to give us that. And he started to figure that out his junior year, and that I really am a force when I'm doing these sorts of things, which you clearly see continue to do at the college level at Mary Washington. And then, like you said, you had a young Isaiah at that point who's a sophomore, and you have a young Desmond who's a sophomore, who these kids, and you got Mekhi Dillard who's a sophomore, and then Brady Page who's a sophomore.
Yes.
And that group, who I knew was exceptional, because as freshmen, I was like, man, these kids are really good. Like,
Yeah.
they might be better than the old guys right now. They're just not ready to take it yet. They just were having fun. And I'll never forget that one picture in the district championship. One of them took a charge, the other two over him laughing like we're not in a 3-point game. Like, and it's like 2,000 people in the gym because they just were so happy to be a part of it. And it was so cool to watch because we even had a shutdown during that season where we had to, like a COVID shutdown, we had to go like 10 days where we couldn't do anything.
Wow. I don't remember that.
But it was in between 12-game winning streaks. So it was like we didn't want to lose the momentum, but at the same time, like we had to deal with what we had to deal with. Because by the end of that season, we had took the mask off, the mandate had stopped. You know what I'm saying? So it was just really cool watching it because every day I'm like, man, I can't believe we won that game. And then we win the next.
Well, let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Because the year you guys went 26-1,
Yeah.
timing is everything in life and timing is everything in sports.
For sure.
It was the perfect time because at that time, up the road, Hayfield
Yes.
doing their thing.
Yes.
And they're starting to emerge as a favorite. But they also had Greg Jones and those guys, so DJ and them, it was kind of expected. Patriot, we knew y'all had talent, but then y'all are joining the race. Battlefield, right here in Haymarket, had a great court. Shout out to Coach Bills and his team. And the media come out, as people say. Everybody was outside.
Yeah, man. It was like a perfect.
It was like going back to the late 90s where the crowds returned. You guys played in a lot of sellouts. And I feel like that was the year of first for Patriot. Even though you had previously won a district, it was the year where you won at John Champ for the first time. Mm-hmm. Mike Ackerman hit that big shot that sealed it. But the big game, which was the indicator to me and even guys like Matt Hatfield, was you went into the pit at Potomac. And I remember thinking, who y'all play again?
And we hadn't played them
Yeah.
in the regular season since my first year.
Yes.
And obviously we met them in that playoff game and they stomped
They
them.
stomped them at Patriot.
And it was at our place. And the kids knew how much that game meant for us as a staff,
Yeah.
obviously, but how much it meant for them to try to like put their stamp on, all right, y'all got to pay attention to us.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, you know me as scheduler, man. We gonna play. They said, well, yeah, we can play, but you gotta come here. Cool. First game of the season. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, they right there, you could tell, like you said, big plays happening. Courtney, obviously, who's just been a defensive guy at that point, comes out and has an offensive flurry. Down the stretch, Isaiah, who I've been yelling about not shooting certain shots, makes 2 threes in the corner to ice the game.
Yes.
Nasir completely controlled the tempo the entire game and like literally controlled the game.
Yeah.
You know, and then Mike Ackerman, who was for a while that season was our lead scorer, came out and made like 3 threes start game.
Yeah.
And I remember them thinking like, who are these kids? And then you got Desmond coming off the bench, just like, oh, I'm just going to randomly score a 15-17 if that's okay with you guys. And it was cool watching it. But at the same time, I was like, man, you just walked in here and won this game. And like, obviously I felt good about it. You know, and it was something for me to brag about and talk about because I had to hear all those guys tell me I wasn't going to win and you're never going to beat us and all this other type of stuff. So, and we literally have not lost the game to them since.
Yeah, you guys.
Make sure I say that out loud.
Say it again.
We have not lost the game to them since.
Well, I know when they see this, they're gonna mark it down. But you know,
it's okay.
But that's good. That's good because I feel like if you're Potomac and if you're Gainesville and Battlefield, you want iron sharp as iron. You want competition.
That's what we want.
I remember that game because I'm not from here, but I've been living up here 25 years, and even in the 757, I saw the undefeated Potomac team. Oh no, I think they were nationally ranked. They beat 2 guys I'm close with, and Brett Harper and Marseille Brown with Kickintan made it to the state championship. So we knew about Potomac Blue.
Right.
Hampton High, when you played as a player,
right,
you went 1-on-1 against one of the best athletes in VHSL history, Ronald Curry.
Right.
So we knew about Potomac. I saw you guys firsthand beat them in our place at the Norfolk Scope. But to go in the pit and knowing, now that I lived up here 25 years, the perception of the west side of the county with Bristol and Battlefield and Haymarket and Manassas to go into Dumfries, the Route 1 corridor.
Oh, they were shocked.
It was intense because I was sitting there and I was like, man, I'm glad they checking for here. I'm glad, because it was intense.
It was different.
It is different.
It was different.
And your kids didn't blink. And I think that's the biggest misconception about Patriot. Yes, you guys are over here. We're sitting here in Velocity Wings. It's a lot of media. It's friendly, it's safe, but at the same time, you guys had that dog mentality, which was interesting because you win that game, then you have to play that Tuesday against a tough Hilton team, right? Was it Hilton?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was at Hilton, and you guys missed a bunch of free throws.
We did.
Then you win that game, and it's like, okay.
Nick and Mike, I think, had a combined like 6 threes between the two.
Yes. And then all of a sudden, you're 6-0.
Yeah.
And this is when, respectfully, not to disrespect the district now, but UNE Reed was very good. They were scrappy. Sean Champ with Coach Webb, they were loaded. You often said that year they had the best talented team.
I think they did.
Battlefield was good. Obviously, you guys arguably the best rivalry in the state. Patriot, your team was good. Gainesville was up and coming. That was their first year.
Yep.
So, and they kind of took some of the talent because you guys are like right down the street from each other.
Right.
So it wasn't like a cakewalk in the district. And then you even went down in December to the 804 and played in the Henrico Christmas tournament.
Sure did.
And we all know when you go down 95 South to the 804 and the 757, they don't really want you down here. You can't just go down there shaking because they're going to smell fear and they're going to take it to you.
Exactly.
Y'all went down there and won that tournament.
Sure did.
And all of a sudden, I'm sitting back as a father and a media guy. I'm like, these dudes are undefeated.
Yeah, man.
When you were undefeated in that year, did you and your staff ever say, okay, we probably going to look at this. Okay, they're going to probably get us. Champ is going to get us.
You know, it was funny because we just kept winning the games, but they were always by like 10 or 11. So it wasn't even like it was like right there, and so we just, and other than like that champ game, but like Mike always like made a random play that was like just won us the game that he was just the weirdest thing. Or like a guy would catch a cramp when he was supposed to shoot the foul shot and have to go sit down. So we get to sub in an 80% guy, like things like that were happening. And so it started to feel really special. And like you said, you watching what's happening down up the road at Hayfield, and you have this like collision course that's coming between two teams that haven't lost a game. They clearly have the top talent within Northern Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just really cool to be a part of. And like you said, it was a perfect storm because now we start getting all this media that's coming. You start seeing the boom in like the photographers and the video highlights.
It was insane.
And it was just so much and like all this attention. And like, I loved it because I loved it for the kids and how they felt like going different places. You know what I'm saying? So it was really cool to see.
You really captured a moment too, because I'm part of NSMT family. And you look at what they do, what we do with broadcasting and covering games and media day. But you also had the Washington Post. You also had Matt Hatfield. You also had Nova Hoops, Julian and his podcast, my podcast. It started to be almost synonymous with Patriot basketball.
Yeah.
There was a following.
Yeah.
Because I remember sitting in the stands, there were people watching. I mean, the media passes that Brad had to approve, because there were guys that were turned away. And then you would look. Jonathan, your former player that transferred to Battlefield, was later in his career, after done playing, was a media guy as well. And you would look at the sideline. Speaking of Jonathan, that year, just to remind everybody, it wasn't without controversy, because right before the season started, you lose a big piece of what you have in DJ, who transfers to Fairfax Christian, elevating Isaiah McCobb, battling for a starting job.
Yeah.
You also lose...
It was an all-district kid.
All-district kid. You also lose Chase Nelson and Jonathan Warren to Battlefield. And for the record, while we're on this platform, you could have blocked their transfer.
Yeah.
But you didn't. Why not?
I would never do that. Kid don't want to play for us. It is what it is at that point. You know, there's always different reasons. I want them to be able to find wherever they could be happy at. And it's not for me to dictate to that because they didn't want to play for us. That's childish. And like coaches that engage in that, their egos are too big and they can't believe that someone would think that somewhere else would be better for them. And that's just not realistic. So, and like I said, I was super close with the Nelson family. Like Trey was one of our best players ever. And so I talked to his father all the time. And, you know, I was very honest. I'm always very honest with these kids. I tell them exactly where they're at, what they need to do to fix it. And if they're not doing it, you're not going to play. And, you know, I love Chase to death, and I'm mad that he figured it out once he got over the battlefield. But he didn't like guarding anybody. And he'll tell you that to this day. He's playing college basketball right now because he figured that out.
Yeah.
And he was one of the better shooters I've ever seen, but like, our program, and I just talked about like that grit that those guys play with, and you have this one person that didn't want to do that, and it wasn't that he didn't want to, it's just that he didn't think it was important because of how good he was at this.
Yeah.
And I'm telling him, you're never going to get to do this unless you do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the one that makes the decisions. So it's like, if you're not going to do it, you got to find somewhere else to do it at.
Yeah.
And so, his father still lived over in Dominion Valley. His mom lived over in this side. And they were together. So he went and lived with his father and finished out his high school career with them. And I rooted for them, except for when they played us.
Yeah. And
same thing with Jonathan.
Yeah, same thing with Jonathan.
He was in a situation where there were some guys that were in front of him. He probably didn't necessarily agree, but his opinion didn't really matter how he felt about it, because the opportunities are always given. It's about what you do with them. And if you don't, then you just got to live with the fact that someone beats you out, because we're about competition. Like I said, we're competing to win, not just playing to play.
Why do you think Battlefield, which was having similar success, because when you guys were on the rise, the district ran through Osborne with Rocky Carter, our good friend, and Battlefield.
Yep.
In that season, at one time, there were 5 teams, I believe, in the district, the Cedar Run district, that were ranked in the top 10 in the state.
It was.
Yet, Patriot, if you talk to Osborne Park, who that year went to regionals, you look at Osborne, you look at Battlefield and John Chant when they won the district, Patriot was the villain.
Yeah.
Why were y'all the villain? Was it your tweets? Was it the talent? Was it envy? Where did that come from? Because you guys embodied the villain.
It didn't start with what I had to say, because I remember in the beginning, it's funny because I remember John Thompson saying this, and he was talking about Calipari.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about, he said, it's all well and good when you're the nice story and you're not necessarily a threat. I'll never forget that first year when we were getting better, but we were going 4-4 in the district. Everybody wanted to shake my hand and tell me how good a job I was doing. And man, those kids really playing hard for you. You really turned that around. The next year we started kicking their ass. And now all of a sudden those handshakes are side eyes. They don't want to they voting for other guys in these district meetings. So I almost feel like I embraced it, as far as like, if that's how you want this to be, this is how it's going to be. And so I do talk. I have a lot of things to say, but it's because I'm confident in what we do. I'm confident in the work that these kids put in. And until you prove otherwise, like you said, when we lost those state championship games, you didn't hear me talking, like making excuses or saying this or saying that. I went right into those interviews. And I said, listen, we got our butts kicked tonight. We weren't good enough as a team, as a coaching staff. It is what it is. I said, but I'm not going to say that we're not going to win the district until somebody else wins it.
Yeah.
Okay. And they haven't. And so I'm not going to say someone else is going to win the region until somebody else wins it. That doesn't mean that I think all of you guys aren't good. I just think that we're better.
No doubt.
And that's because I am confident in what we do as a program to get them to this point in playing those type of games. And so it was just interesting watching the shift, because even that 26-1 team, we were still kind of a popular team.
Yeah.
Like, they liked those kids.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it's so cool how much they're winning and that. And then it was almost night and day from that year to the next year.
Oh, it shifted.
Like
before we get into that following season, because I definitely want to touch on that one. That season, the what-if season, the year first and the what-if season, to this day I remember it. You guys are leading Battlefield for the 5th time. And I'll full disclosure, I can say this now. I have nothing against Battlefield, Coach Bills, but it was like I was rooting for them to lose that last game before they played y'all, because it was a situation where y'all had played them so much.
I know.
And it was like 5 times.
Yeah.
And the anticipation of meeting Hayfield, 2 undefeated teams in the VHSL at VCU, would have been, I mean, you and Los are great friends. You guys have played in the fall league, but obviously you don't run stuff in the fall league. Side note, I've been getting on you about, but you're never going to run anything in the fall league. You're going to let the guys hoop. And they became a great team because they were good too, but then they got their stuff together. They had a great run, and here comes Battlefield. You call them the purple team.
Yeah.
And they ruined the party. They took the keys to the car. They stole the cake and ice cream.
I mean, listen, that's what you're supposed to do to your rival. You're supposed to ruin their fun, right? They ruined our fun. It was a 26-0 situation. We looked like we were going to pull out this crazy game that we didn't necessarily play well in. Like I said, Mike Ackerman, right in front of our bench, makes a 3. And I was like, man, he did it again. Remember thinking it.
Yep.
And we got them to turn it over, and they got a jump ball at half court. I didn't react to it well.
I did.
I
reacted the way I should have reacted.
I didn't think it was a good call.
Major made that call.
But even with him making that call, just like I tell the kids, we got to move on to the next play. And I didn't move on to the next play quick enough because we should have made a substitution to put another player in defensively that would have probably did his job a little bit better than the person we had in there. Mm-hmm. And so that was on us, on me especially, to not make that decision because it led to a young man making a shot. Now, listen, great shot. I don't think he made a 3 against us all season. And so, but he made a big shot in a big moment. And it was crazy to watch because as he shot, I said, that's going in. And it was from the corner.
It's from the corner.
Right. And so he makes it. But then the player of the year gets the ball. I'm like, I'm not calling a timeout. Because I've watched this dude get to the rim at will whenever he wants to. And he's got a full head of steam. And he's going. And I see him going. And more importantly, I see the help coming from the backside. And I see Jay Randall, our best offensive rebounder, on the backside. And there's nobody there with it. And as Nas is going over the ball, it flies up in the air. And it was like it froze. And the clock kept running, but the ball was still in the air. And I remember they got it. And it's not the NBA, so we can't call timeouts and advance the ball. I want to say we fouled, and it was just...
It's tough, man.
It was just one of those situations that we had been on such a high, on such a run, that you just really start to feel like, man, we're going to win every game like this. And then when we didn't, and then it was to them.
Yeah.
And that made it even worse. I couldn't wait for them to lose that next game.
Well, I mean, Hayfield, to their credit, they finished what they started that year. And then the following year, they open up. And you and Lowe's do something which I don't think anybody thought y'all were going to do. Mm-hmm. You return a team that, in my humble professional opinion, is still one of your best teams in Patriot history. When you talk about athleticism, defensive talent, your 5 is Isaiah Vick, Jay Randall, Nasir, Caden, who showed flashes the year before, but no one knew about.
Right.
And Desmond Hopkins.
Right.
That is a tough lineup. And you guys...
all college basketball players.
And yes, and you guys decided to play Hayfield on ring night.
Yeah.
And it was packed at Hayfield.
In Alexandria.
In Alexandria against a team that was on a streak, like what you see with the Miami Hurricanes or UNLV. They were on a streak.
Hadn't lost in 30-some-odd games.
And that game lived, actually, respectfully, it exceeded expectations.
It did.
Came down to a buzzer beater. You know, Ryan was in the game. It was a weird game because the foul count got off, not making excuses, but you had the weird situation when one of your guards, Nasir, got ejected, correct?
He got his 4th foul, and then he was yelling at the team to get them going and used a curse word at his teammates. Mm-hmm. The refs heard it, gave him a tech for using the word. His 5th foul.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the letter of the law doesn't say that.
Yeah.
But like at that situation, which I was very upset with the ref, is like, there's no warning. Like this is the end of the game. Like you're going to make this decision at that point of the game.
Yeah.
Can't tell me it's the first time you've heard somebody use a bad word throughout this 32 minutes of this basketball game. And, you know, whatever. It is what it is. He fouls out. A minute later, Desmond fouls out. You know what I'm saying? And so our starting backcourt is now out of the game, and we got to try to finish it out. And I put Caden in a situation where he had to handle the ball more than he needed to. He went a little bit too early. They got the ball back, and the kid made a miraculous shot.
Great shot.
That literally was inches away from Isaiah tipping it and blocking it. But we still would have had to go to overtime.
Yeah.
And They had the momentum. So it would have been a tough win without those two. But I liked it because Abe Valim was having an excellent game.
Abe played well, and so did Caden.
And Caden obviously had an amazing game. And then, like I said, we still had Isaiah, we still had Jay, who was just coming from football. That was literally
Because Brady Page started.
It was literally his first game back because Brady Page did start that day.
Yeah.
So, it was, like I said, it lived up, exceeded expectations because you have the number 1 and the number 2 team in the state playing to tip off the season. And it goes down to a buzzer beater.
I think when I reflect on those years, especially that season, now I've been part of the Patriot program for quite some time. And as a former college and professional athlete myself and someone that loves competition, even though I left that night disappointed that you guys lost, I felt like, man, my son's time here, and he still had another year left. He's played against Greg Jones, a heck of a coach in Carlos Poindexter, DJ and those guys. Also the summer league at DeMath at Capital Hoops. He's played against all these ranked kids, not including DC Premier and New World. He's going against, in the DMV,
right?
He's going against some of the best players in the country.
Right.
And he has another year left. So it was almost a quiet appreciation, even though I was disappointed for the moment. We talk about mindfulness. Just being in the moment saying, man, this is like, I remember, this is amazing. Like, where some kids are playing, off in some game and they're up by 30 against a team they know they shouldn't even be playing,
right?
Getting stacking, stats, where you guys challenge yourself.
Right.
The rest of that season, I felt like, could you keep them focused because they were really, really loaded? You had a great bench with Abe.
It wasn't hard for me to keep that group focused by how disappointed they were with how the previous season ended.
Mm-hmm.
That helped me keep them focused on the task at hand. Like, they were not going to be okay with anything less than being at VC in that last game.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have to say very much to get them motivated, to get them going. And you see how they defended. You see how they got after it.
And I really feel like that season was also a coming out party. Desmond had to adjust from being a 6-man to a starter.
Yeah.
And then you had Jay Randall, who went from a utility guy to his offensive package increase.
Right. It was like our number 1 option.
I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete, a state track guy at Patriot, won states.
Mm-hmm.
But you also had the surprise of the year in Caden.
Yeah.
Caden came out of nowhere, very similar to Courtney. Mm-hmm. I remember in the documentary, watching Hayfield's documentary, they kept talking about, who is this kid with 19 points?
Yeah.
He wasn't on anybody's scouting report. And what made it even better is, in the Patriot way, he sat down on defense. Mm-hmm. Is there some secret sauce y'all got? Is there some button under the table y'all press when y'all get a kid? Like, okay, you're up next. Here's the syrup. Is it a green to red pill? What are y'all doing, man? Is there something?
Listen, I talked about our coaching staff, man. Our coaches do a great job of helping develop kids. Mm-hmm. And, as we see what kids are and we see what they can be, and we help them try to get to that the best way possible. And it's really important. Like, obviously, you're in a situation where it's like everybody wants things now. And it's difficult at times to get kids to understand that you're not ready for what you think you want. Mm-hmm. You have to grow to that. And a lot of them just want you to give it to them. And then when they end up failing, and then it's going to be your fault too. Yeah. So it's like, Caden was one that always had a really good ability, but couldn't stay healthy or would have random things happen his junior year to where, the minute we would think he was about to start playing, he'd roll an ankle. Like that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's so funny because you talk about how we go from one year to the next. And I just remembered, it's so funny. Every year I say something, people look at me like I'm crazy. I remember when we won the first district championship and everybody thought we were going to go back to normal that next year, 2019. I said, well, next year's team is going to be better. We might not lose. And they're like, all right, sure, 23-3. I said, and we graduate 8 guys from our team. I said, guys, that next year's team is going to be phenomenal again, 21-5. I said, we might have the best backcourt in the area, Trey Nelson and Chad Watson. And then that team that we're talking about the 26-1 before, I remember saying, you better beat him now. Because if you don't beat him now, you might not beat him again. Now, did I think we were going to go 26-1 the first year? No. But I knew that next year when those guys were seniors and Isaiah and them were juniors, that team was going to be really scary because as good as Courtney was, I knew that Caden was a better offensive player that could do similar things defensively that Courtney could do. Caden had 100 steals his senior year.
I remember you told me that. I remember
I
reading.
think it was like 105.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Insane. Like, to put that in perspective, Nasir, as great as the defensive player he was, might have had that number for his career. Caden had that in one season. And so it was just crazy watching those guys lock people up.
Yeah.
Because you said you had Caden at 6'3", 6'4" almost, long, gets a lot of deflections. But then you had Jay, who's same thing. I'll chase you down and pin it on the glass, but then I also might take a charge. I'm getting that tough rebound. Then you have Isaiah 6'7", who's coming in his own, who started to figure out his body and pin his stuff and being a deterrent at the rim. And and like I said, then you got Nasir on the perimeter being an absolute dog and Desmond, we love him to death, but defense wasn't necessarily at the top.
He can shoot it.
His list priorities. But he played hard enough around 4 great defensive players.
Yeah.
That it didn't hurt us.
Yeah.
And so it was, like you said, just watching them, man, and they would get after it.
And you get the luxury of Mekhi Dillard and Brady Page coming off the bench.
Talk about
6'5" Brady Page.
Right, 6'5".
Ryan King, who was a hustler.
Right, and then, like I said, Mekhi Dillard, who arguably might have been one of our best defenders ever, and all the things that he could do and the different guys he could guard. I can't really think of another guy that's quarterbacked our defense the way that him and Isaiah have. And having those two together in the game at the same time, and like they naturally would switch things and understand where the other one was at, and just it was like a frenzy.
And one more point about that, you mentioned Isaiah, obviously as my son. One more point about, you talk about him becoming 6'7", the growth of him physically, because he comes into your program barely touching rim. He could dunk, but not like he was. But by then, he goes from maybe 6'4", possibly 6'5", 6'7". He had a coming out party, right?
6'7".
Yeah.
Like the kids.
Yeah. 6'7", right? He has a coming out party. All of a sudden, here's this kid that was learning how to be a wing. It was almost like we called him Big Game Zay.
Yeah.
He had that big game against Battlefield where the team is struggling.
Yeah.
And he goes crazy, ends up
just making threes
and everything. Steals the show. Him and Caden get play of the game. A week or two later, you have a nationally televised game.
Crazy.
Against the great Cam Ward at Largo, who's at Michigan State now.
We played against 2 guys on that team.
Yeah. And Isaiah gets the MVP, and he's the talk of the town. All of a sudden, his followers are going up. You often said the bigger the game, minus the 2 state championship losses, the bigger the game, the bigger they play. But it wasn't just that. It was also with the growth of social media and Patriots' presence, it was a perfect storm because most guys are not comfortable.
Right.
Here's a guy singing in the locker room to New Edition, Can You Stand the Rain?
I know.
He's dancing in front of the camera while Teron is recording him. TikToks.
He's dressing as Pete the Pioneer.
He dresses as a mascot.
Yeah.
He's on the homecoming court. And then he has the block record, 10 blocks in a game against Osborne Park.
Sure does.
And he embodied Patriot. I don't know of anybody ever, no disrespect to anybody else, it's not about that, embodied what you guys wanted him to be, but it wasn't just the basketball. It was leadership and just the persona of I'm going to enjoy this and be a goofy and also be silly, but in the way you're going to still respect me.
Well, we talk about like Nasir, like putting that toughness into what we were. Isaiah put that, we're going to enjoy this into it. It's like, he kind of took what Nas started and grew it because now you got these guys at pep rallies doing cheerleader exhibitions, like jumping around and doing flips and having a routine at a pep rally, or walking around with Santa Claus hats in there and taking pictures with Santa at school. It was like they were like celebrities almost. So like, it was really cool to watch how they were juggling that. and still coming out and really performing on whatever night we were playing that week. And they said our practices were amazing. Yeah, we had so much talent in the gym. And like I said, I remember when we played Potomac later, and I did jump ahead, but like in that playoff game, we practiced it. And I'm nervous as I don't know what, because they coming into our place as the regional semifinal. They got Kyle, who's amazing. They picked up the Jaden Harris kid. And I'm like, man, we got to get back. We said we're going to get back to that game, and they're in the way. Mm-hmm. It's a really hard game. Mm-hmm. And now Sears is over on the side. He's talking or doing something. I'm like, Daz, are you paying attention? He said, hey, coach, I need you to relax. We're going to go out. We're going to whoop them, and we're going to celebrate after the game. And went back to having a conversation. He was happy in practice, and he said to me, I was like this. I remember I thought to myself, I said, this is why I want to choke him, but it's why I love him at the same time. And it was just that confidence that they had in themselves. You just would see it night in and night out. Like I said, we went to that game at Hayfield. We had those games that we played against those Battlefield teams there. We had those different games that we were traveling and playing other places. We had the TV game where we're down double digits and have to come back to win in overtime against the all-time lead scorer in Maryland basketball history. It's just like we just kept meeting the challenges. And even when we had the games where we lost, it was against big-time teams in those situations.
Yeah. And it was just a special time. And unfortunately, you didn't get it done. Again, you get to the state championship, you achieve your goal, but Jay Randall and Isaiah got in foul trouble.
Right.
At one point, you got Ryan and Brady in. Nasir put the team on his back. He's down by 4 at halftime. You don't finish it the way you want it, but respectfully, you and I talked after the game. Hayfield, those 2 years, they just were
all-time great teams.
All-time great teams. I don't care. You want to go AAA, AA, single A era, 90s, 2000s.
That's right.
You got to mention Hayfield.
It's like, not saying we're on that level, but it's like getting mad at the Knicks for never beating the 90s Bulls. Like, what'd you expect?
Yeah.
There's all-time great teams, and those Hayfield teams were all-time great teams.
Yeah.
Teams lost to next year, all-time great.
Yeah, yeah.
Just so happened when we were an all-time great team running into other all-time great teams.
Well, speak about that before we get into the final segment of this year, and then, we'll wrap up. But the following year, it is the same expectation. And all of a sudden, unfortunately, a good friend of ours, especially to you, Rocky Carter, Osborne doesn't retain him. Mm-hmm. Tay Barber, who was Isaiah's best friend along with Desmond and Kyle, that crew, they know each other from basketball, AAU.
Right.
He wants to live with his dad and come to Patriot. And he comes, and you do not recruit.
No.
People don't realize this area, Bristol, there's talent here. It's not advertised like it is in the 757, but
right.
People think you're going around like voter registration. Hey, I'm coach. You're not emailing people, curriculum, and Tay comes and he arrives at Patriot, and all of a sudden you got Tay Barber, who was 1,000-point scorer. You actually played him at night. He scored 1,000 points his junior year at Osborne.
I did.
And I really felt like you and your staff, along with Isaiah, Desmond, Ryan, who he played with those two guys on, for me, AAU for 4 or 5 years,
right,
welcome him along with Desmond and Makai and Abe. Like, it's very interesting because people think, oh, you should just take transfers. But Tay Barber came to you with already 16 plus Division I offers. Mm-hmm. He was a phenomenal player, but in talking to him and his mom and dad, he had habits that he had, started because at Osborne, sometimes he forced his shot or he did some things, even though he was an immense talent.
Right.
He comes to you and becomes an elite defender, and he also still can get buckets.
Yeah.
Efficiently.
Yeah.
And then
that was like you said, it was the growth and the maturation.
Yeah.
Because the way you said, man, I remember Keith used to talk about this all the time. It's hard to take transfers as seniors because usually they have a lot of selfish motivation. Mm-hmm. They want to get theirs to get to where they want to go. Mm-hmm. They're not invested in what you've been doing because they haven't been here. But Tay was a unique situation because of the history he had with the guys that were on our team. So that relationship was already there. So it wasn't something where I had to get him acclimated to being cool with the main guys on the team. It was something of like figuring out how to accentuate his talents while also fitting in the parameters of what we were going to do. And I'm not stupid. I'm not going to squeeze his game down to try to fit my own ego and say, you got to do what we do for Patriot basketball. But I did tell him, I said, listen, and I was very honest with him, you know, because like I said, it was a situation where his father lived down the street from the school. And I used to see him all the time during youth football games with Anthony and his younger brother. And his dad would say, oh, he might come to Patriot. And I was like, all right, cool. Because like you said, I don't do that. It's like, because I don't ever want anybody to feel like I owe them anything. And I don't want anybody to say, oh, they did this or Sherm did that. No. We did this how we're supposed to do it. That's the other part of like winning and people thinking it's easy. Like, if you do it the right way, it continues to go that way.
Well, let me add, on NSMT, this platform, this podcast, you also turned away, I won't say their names, but there were 2 starters in the district that were trying to come. See, what people don't realize is you turned away a really, really prolific shooter who's playing D1 basketball who was trying to come to Patriot, and another point guard who was interested in coming, and you were like, no.
And that's not the only time that does happen. That's like I tell you, man, like, people like, well, it's crazy the things that people do, but I'm like, listen, man, I don't do that. I'm not going to get into that with you. And most times I usually call that coach to let them know.
Yeah.
When we were talking about this shooter, I never called that coach to let him know, because the last time I tried to let him know something, he said some things that I didn't care for. So I said, you just have to find out on his own once he goes somewhere else. But it was one of those things that, you know, I just, like you said, getting Tay to come here was like, when he came, and like you said, when I talked to him, and when like they came to register, you know, I talked to the parents and I said, listen, I want you to understand this is a very different situation. I said, because we talked about how we were just in that last game. I sat in that press conference before I even knew Tay Barber was a possibility of being at our school. And I said, we will be back in this game. And I know everybody looked at me like I was crazy. Here Sherman is talking trash again. If the coach is crazy, like, we'll still follow him and retweet everything, but we think he's insane. I said, we're going to be back here. And I said it with a straight face. I said, we'll be back in this game next year, I promise you.
Yeah.
And so I said, we're going to the state championship game with or without you. I said, and if you think that this is the Tay Barber show, you are sorely mistaken. You have to come here. You are going to guard, because I know you can do it. You just haven't done it. You know, so for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying, you haven't done these things at this type of level. You haven't concentrated on these sorts of details of the game at this sort of level. And he had to learn and adjust to it, you know, and it took him a little bit to find himself. And I remember, you know, we went down and we played Woodside to open the season, because I'm insane and clearly playing
another game
for teams that won the state championship the year before, that bring back their old team.
That year you actually played 3 state championship teams. You played South Lakes, Hampton High, and Hayfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So
and all, yeah.
Right. So we go down there, and he struggled a little bit, and it was kind of up and down even in the fall, because he was trying to find his way. And finally I said, hey, you just be who you are. Just make sure you play defense while you're doing it. I said, and I won't have anything to say to you.
Yeah.
And then you just saw a different kid. And then all of a sudden he just getting 20 on 10 shots. He had never been that efficient. Yeah. And what he had been doing, he was shooting 60, 40, 90.
Yeah.
And it was just like watching it. Like, he would have 25 in 20 minutes of playing time. And like I said, he might have played 19, 20 minutes a game that season, if that.
Yeah.
Averaged 20 plus points a game.
Yeah.
And he was, and I'm going to go lock you up and steal it, and I'm going to punch it in the basket, or I might throw it back to Zay. He was all about Patriot basketball, and it was great to watch him do it.
I really feel like there's a misconception in today's era, because you hear a lot of the older folks talk about Division 6, Division 5, Division 4. There's too many championships. There's too many classifications. And as someone like you and I, we've competed. So to me, being a father in the new era of VHSL high school sports, I look at it, I saw y'all battle 2 consecutive years in the state semis against Oscar Smith.
Right.
I saw you even last season host Lansdowne again after beating them a few years ago with Isaiah and them, beat a very dominant Lansdowne team. Oscar Smith, the year you guys beat them, Isaiah's junior year, they were 25-1. And it was a battle. So this misconception like, oh, well, it's a given South Lakes and Patriot going to get to the States. I think people don't understand, especially when you challenge yourself, because even that year, you go down to the 757, you lose to Hampton High, my alma mater, on a buzzer.
Yep.
You also lost to Woodside to start the season. You beat South Lakes that year in a showdown that everybody was over 300 college scouts there, Jordan Scott.
And we played what's called Clinton Grace that year.
Yeah, you played Clinton Glaze. That came down to a buzzer beater. Isaiah and Tate both had a shot. Up in Maryland, sold out crowd, one of those tournaments that everybody played all day. It wasn't like you ran from bumps. So to assume you're going to get to a state championship, in my humble opinion, is ignorant.
Yeah.
It's not. It's I mean, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is it easy?
No, it's exhausting, and it's like it's stressful. You know, it's like you said, the expectation now is that, listen, if we don't win the district, it's going to be headline news. If we don't win the region now, it's like, what happened to Patriot? Those aren't givens. Those are hard to come by. And so if we're getting to the regional championship, it means we're going to the state tournament. And so for those group of kids to be the favorite on top of that, it's one thing to just get there.
Yeah.
But for everyone to say, you're going to play in that last game, and to get to that last game with all those expectations of walking into every gym and everyone rooting against you, but also expecting you to win. And it's just, it's taxing. And you think, these are teenagers. We're not talking about grown men making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
We're talking about teenagers that got to go see how they're going to do in their Algebra 1.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Or their geometry test that day, or their World History 2 quiz that they got. You know, so you're trying to help them with that. Their hormones are all over the place. You know, they're whatever they're dealing with at home. And so you're trying to get them to focus, and not only that, but deal with all the glitz and glamour that are coming from this.
A lot of interviews too.
Right. You know, like I got people at our practice every other day. They taking pictures. They say, Coach, can you put this uniform on? And so to do all of that, and that's why I always say, like, the X's and O's part is easy. You can go to any clinic, you can get a book and learn that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a managing of egos and personalities, and to get them to have one common cause and go in that direction. That is difficult, and especially when you're expected to do it and everyone is giving you their best game. You don't have an off night. Everyone is up to play you. It's not like we're going to sneak up on anybody at this point. So when we come into a game, we got to be locked in, because if we're not, they're going to jump all over us, because they're going to be super amped up, and then their crowd's going to be into it. They're going to be saying they're not that good, that are overrated, all that stuff. And so you dealing with all that. And listen, but the great part about it is I love every second of it. And I want them to love it. I want them to embrace it. I want them to understand that there's a reason they are cheering against you.
Yeah.
There's a reason that, like last year, and no disrespect to them, that we lost the one district game that we've lost in the last some odd years, when we lost at Gainesville, and they had a heck of a game. They celebrated that game like it meant something. It was the regular season game. And I remember thinking, like, do you guys look at what's happening right now? Listen to this. This is what people do just to beat you. In a game that didn't mean anything other than it was like for bragging rights, which means a lot to us because we want to do all the bragging.
Facts. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, look at that. Like, we weren't going to walk off the court doing any of that. We're not going to go to the Purple Team's gym and celebrate after the win. We expect to beat you. And so that expectation is a burden to carry if you don't know how to do it correctly.
Sure. And I think that's a good mindset to have. When you look at that last game, what did you learn from that loss against South Lakes in the state championship? Because, I mean, I respect Mike Desmond. George Scott is a generational talent. But to be respectful and honest, it wasn't like you didn't have Isaiah to match up with him. And in the first matchup, y'all won by double digits. At one time, y'all were up 20 plus points.
Yep.
And you had Tay. So you had college players with Desmond, Isaiah, and Tay on your roster. Mike had that. It should have been similar to what Hayfield was in the first matchup, but, you know, your entire team, minus Makai Dillard, played their worst game of their careers. I asked you this question not to stay backwards, but to move forward. Life lessons as a coach are valuable.
Absolutely.
So you have a team this year that has the same expectations that started in 2019, 2020, right? You got a loaded roster, even though you've lost 3 players to private schools. I mean, Carson Cook. I mean, I love Carson. He's family. Him and Isaiah tight. He did what was best for him, and you still tight with the family. They did what was best for them. Jaden Palmer.
Or Jameson Ross.
And Jamison Ross. But the expectations remain. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you.
No.
So when you look back at that South Lakes game, a team that people thought, you know, man, you got all this talent. You got Abe, Isaiah, you got Tay Barber, Desmond, Makai, a tough, gritty player in Ryan Keaton.
Right.
You have a similar team, not so much a 6'5" Tay Barber and 6'7" Isaiah, but you got Noah.
Yeah.
You got Elijah, who to me is a dynamic guard, tops in the States. What do you take from that loss? And as you look and project for this season, we can't predict wins and losses, but you know what you have going into a season, how you prepare them. What are you going to take? I know they had last season, but from that championship loss, South Lakes, what do you take? Is it travel arrangement? Is it scheduling? Is it like laying off them? Because one thing you said to me, we were rapping one night, you said, I was at times so hard on Isaiah and them. We got to get back here. We got to get back here.
Yeah, and that's where we talk about the grind of it and just how it can weigh on you. And I really, like, Isaiah and them were so great because I could get on them and I could yell and I could be a jerk kind of, and they would just still give me everything they got. There's no pushback. It would be like, Sherman tripping today, but we got to get it done. And I should have eased up off the reins in that game, not the expectation, because the expectation is always going to be greatness for us. But it was, come on, we got to get this done. What are we doing? It should have been like, hey, you're all right. You are here for a reason. You are a great basketball team. You have to believe that you're a great basketball team in one of the toughest moments you're going to have probably in a lot of y'all careers. But instead it was almost like I was coming across like you're blowing it. And now, like me thinking about it, I'm floating over myself, watching myself do it. I'm like, you should have eased that tension and made them relax, because that's what it was. Because you remember the game. It was like we never played basketball before. We could have not practiced the entire week and had a better game than we did than that. And it was just wild to watch us because they wanted it so bad that they choked the life out of it. Mm-hmm. You know, like Isaiah's an 80% foul shooter. We talk about big games there. It was 1 for 9 from the foul line. Like, that was insane. Never seen that before. Mm-hmm. Tay couldn't dribble to save his life. He couldn't make anything. He missing layups, something he normally makes. And like Abe looked like he was shook after just dropping 20 at Potomac in the regional championship.
Big dunk and everything.
Right. And so these are all guys outside of Tay that were in that building the year before. So it wasn't like, oh man, this is the VCU. It's a big deal. So it was just, I didn't help them help themselves.
Yeah.
And that was the learning lesson for me. And that is that they wanted just as bad as you. If they didn't, they wouldn't be here. You don't need to make them feel like they're not giving you everything they got because they're struggling to calm down. Mm-hmm. It'd be different if we weren't playing hard.
No doubt.
We're playing hard. We're just playing really, really bad. So for as bad as we were down 9 at the end of the third quarter. If we make that layup, we go in and 1, down 6. Instead, we miss it, no call, 3-pointer by the point guard.
Oh, Kennedy.
Yeah,
Kennedy.
By Kennedy to close the quarter. That was a game.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything left in them at that point to get in. And you could see it. Like, all the air came out at that point. And it was, I didn't help them in that situation. And every year, I don't think I've ever watched the last game on film.
Yeah, I don't.
I just because and unfortunately for me, I have a memory that I don't forget anything. It's just in there. I could literally tell you every play that happened when I was like 13 years old in some random basketball game.
So you take that life lesson. You got Sean Madrigal.
Yeah,
He had a great summer.
yeah,
I mean, he had a great summer. Elijah, who is a dynamic point guard. I mean, when he's locked in, he's catching oops, banging it backwards. Noah, who was just overseas,
yeah.
you know, I mean, he looking like he like he a pro prospect. I mean, he over there getting double team, dropping 30.
Right.
You have my kid Chris, a very gritty point guard who I love his game.
Christian
You
Cole,
got players. Christian Cole.
Jeremiah Parrish.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about JP.
Yeah, JP. Pierce Gaskins, Kai Wilcox gonna be coming back later in the season. Obviously, he's still back. Everybody gonna be looking like, I can't believe that kid hasn't graduated yet.
Mm-hmm.
We got some guys, man. Tim Odell's another really good one. So we got a kid that has come over as a senior, Malachi, that's gonna be very good for us. So I like the kids we got. And Lucas Argueta is another one. It's a lot of kids that this group actually witnessed the state championship loss.
So that's my point, dude. Because sometimes when I do these kind of interviews, coaches will say, yeah, back in this year, those kids weren't around or they transferred in or they heard about it. These kids understand what was started by Zach Blue,
Yes.
carried on by Nasir and Jay Randall, and then Isaiah and those guys. And then now you have this group.
Yeah.
Because, again, you're a prisoner of the expectations you created.
Absolutely.
The district, nobody's going to look when you guys hang another district banner.
No.
Nobody's even going to really celebrate a region. You will, because it's a new team, new region.
Right.
Regional championship, excuse me. But they want to get back and get to the state championship. And you went insane again with the schedule.
I did.
I don't know what you and Teron were doing. I don't know if y'all stayed out late. I mean, just real quick, highlight because the schedule, just because, we're going to have people watching.
Yeah.
What's the schedule like this year?
So I always laugh at this, and me and you always joke about this, is that I need to start putting it up on the calendar that I can see in my house. So that way when I'm doing it, it doesn't come together so crazy by the end of it. But so we open at Riverside, then at Verina, then we have Norview at Potomac. Trying to remember what the following week is. The following week is, I want to say it might be Independence. And then I think Saturday, is that the one at St. Mary's or is that later? Okay, so we play St. Mary's in Annapolis. And then the next week we got Hayfield at South Lakes. Christmas break, first game back of a break, we got Westfield. About a week later, we got Lansdowne, or it might be that week, because I think it's 4 games in the week that week. I'm not even talking about the district games that are sprinkled in there. We got Forest Park at some point. We got Woodbridge this year, who's supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Just like I said, like going down to Lansdowne's crazy. Because that team is really good, and they brought back everybody just like we did for the most part.
Yeah, they got a great guard.
And we're going into their place, and as a 757 guy, we're not getting any calls.
You're not going to get no calls.
And we're not going to get any calls at Verina in the 804. So, but what I've talked to you about this numerous times. They have to see different areas and different types of kids to know if they got what it takes to do that. And last year, I made the mistake that they didn't see 757. And so they didn't understand what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't get to see it until state quarterfinal. And by that point, it's too late.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you could see it was kind of like a shock to their system because they had all challenges up to that point, to their credit. We had played South Lakes again that season at South Lakes, and so it was just, they had to see that type of athlete and that type of intensity. And so to go to those places is different than playing in at home. Because we had Verona come to our place and they beat the crap out of us.
Yeah.
Last year, we went to South Carolina, which playing against, and I want to say this guy might be messing around leading overtime elite and scoring right now. The kid that scored 50 on us down there in South
Yeah,
Carolina.
I watched that.
So, but I wanted to make sure we saw different parts of the state, cross the bridge as well, doing that. We're going to scrimmage Coolidge on November 22nd in D.C., Saturday night at 7 p.m. So you know the type of people in the job. They'll be talking, you know. And so at least we've been up there before, so they're not going to be like, who are these dudes? But it's they need that. And I love basketball for that because they get to see different things. We get to see where they're at, see where their heart's at, and then really compete and get after it.
You know, I think that's great. And I think it's great that you challenge your kids. And I think it's great another season is upon us. I also love the fact that you do challenge them. It's going to be another great season in VA, especially in DMV with all the competition. You guys are favorites. Westfield, obviously they're loaded. And then Lansdowne, you know, I know you want to get your lick back, but they're going to be ready. And that's the good thing, man, competition, because it goes by fast. But, you know, Coach Sherman, this has been a lot of fun, man. Different environment. Normally we on the laptop, but I appreciate you for coming through. Shout out to everybody watching. We appreciate Velocity Wings for hosting this event, man. And it was a lot of fun. Good luck to you this season, not just with Patriot, but also with Anthony at Patriot playing football. He's going to play basketball, and you also have Devin.
Yeah, man.
The championship is
Saturday at Gainesville High School, 11 a.m. And you want to come out and watch some ankle-biter football. Man.
Yeah. So it's been a great time. I don't know how you do it. You're coaching, and you also have the GBA draft.
That draft is on Sunday, like I said, and Anthony playing on Friday. So weekends are pretty full, but it's fun. I get to watch them do what they do.
Yeah. Well, it's always fun, man. It's always great when we rap and talk about everything going on. I appreciate you.
For sure.
And I speak for a lot of parents and players. We thank you. I know this is another topic for another show, but you guys do not get paid your worth. The VHSL gives you that stipend and expects you to be a father, a priest, a minister, a mentor, a teacher, an educator.
Right.
But you make it look fun and easy, and we appreciate you for doing it.
It's enjoyable, man, especially when you got good people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also thank you guys for watching the NSMT podcast. We appreciate you guys for jumping on. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you also stay abreast of all the upcoming events we got coming up, Media Day, also other interviews like this with Coach Sherman. We appreciate y'all. Thank you.